As if they don't have too much on their plates. The Kings of Combat Sports Podcast, John and Wade. They'll talk about the things they did that day. They'll analyze the work of Vince and Triple H. Review-A-SmackDown. Review-A-SmackDown. Smackdown. Review-A-SmackDown. Smackdown. Review-A-SmackDown. Smackdown. Review-A-SmackDown.
It's John Pollock and Wai Ting. Welcome to Review-A-SmackDown Live. Wai, how are you?
Good.
What a beautiful shirt you're wearing on this Wednesday morning. A Dan Lavransky original.
Yes, it is. As original as our parody shirts can be.
Now, how can we pronounce the mouth when it's got the...
The umlaut?
That's what it's called. Because this has been discussed in regards to Finn Balor. If we're really saying it right.
Okay.
It should be Finn Balor.
Is it baller? Or doesn't he say Baylor?
That's the complete wrong pronunciation
it's
from
not
Kurt
right.
Angle.
Oh, okay.
It's not Baylor.
Well, I don't know.
Baller, I believe, is how. So
Finn
how
Balor.
I don't know how that would apply to the O. I'm very
Muth.
bad with accent. Muth? The Muth?
Well, I mean, this is for people who can't see. This is the Dan Lavransky Motorhead shirt.
Everyone can see.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, so I don't know if you even pronounce it in Motorhead. It's just for appearances. Really.
Mooterhead?
Nobody says that.
No, they don't.
So
Begs the question why it's above the O.
it looks kind of cool, I guess.
Okay. Well,
Maybe we'll put one over John.
What would it be?
John.
Someone is going to give us a drastic correction to
Yeah.
our pronunciations.
Yeah.
Lots to discuss, as always. The Tuesday night cavalcade of WWE programming that we are going to get to.
Yeah, we'll be going through SmackDown Live, talking smack.
And then, if you're watching this, got to go to the website. Got to download the rest.
The audio version will have our review of 205 Live, which we are still doing as of this moment, despite our poll last week where we figured out that only 80% of at least my followers are even paying attention to this show anymore.
I think the expectation needs to be now that I'm going to keep doing it as long as Wai is watching it.
Yeah,
But neither of us can hold it against the other if we come in on a Wednesday and say, hey, I didn't watch 205 Live. There can be no judgment.
I like that. I
don't want it to be an expectation.
You know,
now.
some weeks maybe we'll only watch partial portions of the show. I think that's fair.
Could almost take turns, really, to be quite
I'm
honest.
fine with that too. You're it this week. All right.
I'm after we did Raw, I went to grab that clip of TJP. I must have listened to it about a dozen times in a row.
There's a great gif of it.
It was way better than I watched it live and thought it was amusing. And then we talked about it and I watched it back and it was even better. It was so much better.
I feel bad.
He really is the best.
I really feel bad. I feel like we make fun of him too much. But
Well,
there's
unfortunately, he got the 205 Live promo duty, and it has been transcribed.
I look forward to that. Plenty of TJ Perkins to discuss.
He
on
was
this
all
show.
over.
Yeah.
So Tuesday night, it took place from Rochester, New York, at the Blue Cross Arena, which, if this is not the oldest building the WWE runs, it's at least one of them. This thing opened. Guess how many years ago this arena opened up?
40.
1940?
No. 40 years ago.
1955.
Wow.
62 years ago.
Wow. That's older than almost everybody. Like, it might be older than Vince. How old is Vince?
Vince McMahon is older.
Oh, okay.
Vince McMahon is, I want to say, 71, 2. I don't know. I think he's over 70, though.
Is there an older person on the roster than Vince?
Than Vince?
I mean, like
No.
even like that's on TV currently. No, right?
I don't think so.
Heyman's younger.
No one's coming to mind. So anyway, all the women were in the ring for the Money in the Bank ladder match, the women's version. And Shane makes his grand entrance, goes through all of the participants and says he has a reveal and insists on a drum roll, which was a very lengthy drum roll, as this object came down from the ceiling. It was unwrapped and it revealed a white briefcase for the women. Everyone was stunned. Oh my God.
White briefcase.
A white
Yeah.
briefcase.
Do you like it?
I don't hate it.
I like it.
It's a briefcase.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Couldn't be pink. That would be Oh boy, the tweets that the WWE would receive.
The white, I think, it goes well with the title, the white women's title.
Yep, sure. I don't know. I don't get too much into colored choices.
You should, John. It's very important.
Anyway, so Shane then puts over the dangers of the match, and then we had promo time where the microphone got passed around as we all shared our words. James Ellsworth says, we already know what's going to happen with Carmella winning, who thanks Jimmy and cuts a promo on these stew nods.
What does that mean?
It's slang for being divorced from reality.
Stew nod.
Stew nod.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Where does that originate? Is
It's
that like the Motorhead thing with like? Is it
no,
like a
it's
European
just
thing?
It's an Italian term.
Oh, okay.
Then Charlotte says that she's genetically superior and is going to add to her legacy. What an insult.
What?
I'm genetically superior to you.
Yeah.
My genetics, they're just raging in comparison.
That's her gimmick. Well, you don't like it?
It's not one of those it's not one of those lines that just rolls off the tongue. It's a perfect WWE catchphrase.
I'm genetically superior.
Yes.
I don't see anything wrong with that.
Natalia is sick of all of Charlotte's woos and how she's ripping off her father, and then goes off to rip off Brett's line. When Becky says that she's doing as such with Brett, and all she rips off are arms. And then Tamina says, all you do is talk. I'm going to shut you all up. Man, the tension is boiling.
I thought all of them sounded pretty decent in the quick lines that they had to deliver. I personally enjoyed Carmella and Natalia the most.
Naomi then came out, and she wants to be in the match because it will be lit. And she says that the winner will have to face her, which isn't exactly true.
Yeah.
May have to face her, may not.
Yeah.
And then they are all interrupted by Lana, who comes out in this blue gown and is dancing and got a big Lana chant.
Mm-hmm.
She was very over to the Rochester folks.
Yeah, very much so. She had new music, didn't even have a Titantron yet. So I wonder. But just upon appearance, this crowd seemed to really love her.
Which, could you have anticipated that kind of a reaction for her? I know she's been off television for a while, but I wouldn't have envisioned this kind of reaction for her, especially a pro-Lana crowd.
Maybe not. Maybe you're right. Like, maybe not to this level. I think it would have been positive either way, just because, you know, it's like a stunning woman walking out.
Shane's not happy about this interruption. Says that she can compete. Lana says she could compete in this ladder match, and everyone scoffs at this idea. Naomi is laughing, thinking she can hang in this kind of a match, and asks, who have you ever beaten? And Lana says, well, I can beat you. And Shane says that on SmackDown, a title match needs to be earned. And Lana storms off, and the crowd's disappointed, chanting, we want Lana at the end of this. So I was very surprised at just how popular Lana was to this crowd, and she ended up being focused upon heavily on this show and on Talking Smack.
I feel like the way they scripted it was almost not expecting the babyface reaction that Lana received. And she was, I think, so well received by the crowd that Naomi came off like the heel in this, you know. Everybody else kind of came off as like bullies for laughing at this woman wanting to jump into the match.
Yeah, Lana's like Allie on Impact.
Oh, yeah?
Just wants a shot, just wants a chance.
Sure, there you go. So, but it's important to note that Lana kept her accent. I thought there could have been a chance they would have dropped it.
This didn't impress me. Later on Talking Smack, that part.
Oh.
That was crazy.
Seeing her improvise with her accent?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sure.
Naomi, Charlotte, and Becky took on Natalia, Carmella, and Tamina, a rematch from Backlash. Becky got sent to the floor to set up the first break. Afterwards, Carmella knocked Naomi and Charlotte off the apron to keep Becky away. Eventually, she broke free, tagging in Naomi, who did her rapid-fire kicks on Carmella. A jawbreaker. Tamina was in and took 2 head kicks. And then there was a springboard cross-body, but Carmella made the save. Lana returned to ringside. Naomi spots her and starts arguing from the apron, turns around, and Lana trips her on the edge. And this leads to Tamina landing a super kick and pinning Naomi as Lana applauds. So now Carmella's pinned Naomi twice. Tamina's pinned her. And the X Factor is the one getting the title shot, which we'll get to.
I wonder if they're even keeping track anymore of the people that are pinning Naomi.
Yeah, there needs to be a rule, like an expiration. Like there's only relevance to pinning someone within 30 days, which maybe Mojo heard about, and that's why he brought up the Jinder thing.
Yeah, right.
Right at the deadline.
Right. I thought the match was pretty good. All of them working really fast. Lana, Naomi, decent.
It was fine.
Yeah. We got to hear Tamina's theme again.
We did, and I made note of it this time because it played for the whole post-match. Shane is on his phone, and he walks up and just wanders up to the Andre the Giant trophy with Mojo, who points out what this is. And he calls winning it the greatest moment of his life and thought it would open doors and springboard his career. But he's been a ghost riding the bench. He just wants an opportunity. And he asks Shane if he was left out of Money in the Bank as a way to motivate him or if he just forgot about Mojo. And he brings up, I am the only man to have beaten Jinder Mahal since he moved to SmackDown. Shane says there's a lot of talent here, such as Ty Dillinger and Luke Harper, and says that he will have a chance to be in Money in the Bank if he can beat Jinder Mahal tonight.
I thought Mojo came across really well here. I thought his promo was wonderfully written, gave him great motivation, and brought up like a loose end that I feel needed to be addressed. Actually, one that we kind of all forgot about, at least I did, the fact that he beat Jinder. But I'm glad they used it for what came to be, just a TV match. But I think Mojo comes across pretty well in segments like these where he kind of like speaks as, the athlete who's just looking for his chance. He comes across very genuine. But for whatever reason, when he's wrestling, he's just not very likable.
No, he's just yelling and acting like a maniac. AJ Styles and Dolph Ziggler, we had a rematch from last week. Styles used this cradle immediately, and it started off as this really entertaining grappling match.
Yeah,
for entertainment purposes.
A wrestling match.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ziggler landed a drop kick to go through a commercial break, and Tom Phillips notes that momentum is at stake.
Yeah, who gets it this week?
It's on the line. Styles kicked out of a famouser. Then they fought on the turnbuckle, and Styles slipped out of a superplex attempt, and then a tornado DDT was blocked by Styles. Styles went to the apron, goes for the phenomenal forearm, but Ziggler tries to stop it, and Ziggler reverts to a sunset flip. Ziggler grabs the rope for leverage, blocking it, but can't get it. They roll into the center, and Styles transitions to the Styles Clash and hits it. So Styles gets his win back, 50-50, and then it is noted. We talked about that momentum Dolph Ziggler had coming into this match, but that momentum has taken an abrupt shift to AJ Styles. This can't be just a coincidence that, like, this word momentum is just inserted into everything.
Maybe it's just their new.
There's no coincidences when it comes to this.
What are you suggesting?
That it's just that's a word they are pushing.
Oh yeah. I would assume so.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm not saying momentum is going to turn into some kind of object.
Right. I think we're at the point where the writers of the show, Vince himself, they're very aware that these are just matches for the sake of matches, and what are they fighting for? Nothing. So let's just make up something.
In this
momentum.
case, though, I felt it almost it detracted from last week, and all that you did was Ziggler on Talking Smack. It was like we just erased all of that here in this match.
Yeah, and I agree with you.
It wasn't even. It was barely brought up last week. The Talking Smack stuff was never referenced. Like Talking Smack almost doesn't exist on the show.
So it could simply be 50-50 booking. Or do you think it's possible that finish was not supposed to occur last week and AJ was supposed to get his feet up on the ropes?
I don't buy that. I really don't.
It's just very strange why they would do that all of a sudden and then just undo it the next week. It reeks of the Sasha Banks-Alicia feud.
Well, that's what they do, though. It's always one guy gets his win back, and nothing means anything. That happens all the time.
I feel like they're usually more protective of AJ Styles, and they would, if they were to have somebody pin AJ, it wouldn't be somebody on the level of a Dolph Ziggler. It just feels very unusual to me.
The Fashion Files was next. This one was called Dumb on Arrival, and we had the same black and white detective film style, and we go to the wall, which took me at least 5 minutes to
you studied this
properly jot down. This one was really clever. We had a photo of Humphrey Bogart and Billy Kidman with the line, "Here's looking at you, kid, man." This was awesome. Very clever for the Casablanca fans.
Was
out
it
there.
awesome and
I thought it was
clever?
really clever.
It was fine. I don't know if it was awesome and clever.
It was amazing. Then they had a shot of the Usos with the caption, "Anna Watting," as if it doesn't speak as well as it reads, as annoying.
Yeah.
And then they had photos of Michael Hayes listed as repeat offender and one of Enzo that said out of our jurisdiction. Mm-hmm. They put a lot of thought into this, and I feel you and me more so than most should give credit to this. This is like coming up with the name of a show every week.
Sure.
And they've got a pressure on them for this fucking board.
Well, it's a thing now. It's a thing that I think people are conditioned to pause and analyze, and the work pays off. You know, the fact that we're talking about it right now.
I feel the majority aren't pausing and are probably missing a lot because there's a lot to take in if you're not actually stopping. And
if you look online, like, you know, kind of like the internet community is sort of made to like dissect Easter eggs like this.
Yeah,
that's who they're doing it for.
Fandango had taken the bottle of cologne last week to the lab with the boys, but realized there is no lab and there are no boys, except on Ring of Honor, and concludes it's not cologne, but the cologne's cologne, and both were confused as they say they were close, as in close. Not as clever. Mm-hmm. The New Day enters the room, and they go from the hallway in regular color to black and white in the room, and they react to the color change. And they can't hear the inner thoughts of Fandango and Tyler Breeze. They give them rompers as a gift for taking on their case, but Fandango explains they don't take bribes. Breeze, meanwhile, goes off screen and comes back wearing the romper. And New Day is looking for intel on the Usos ahead of Money in the Bank, and they hand over boxes of the Usos merchandise, and New Day leaves confused as Fandango and Breeze say, "New case rocks," with their inner voices at the end. I don't know if my recap does it justice, but I was entertained by this.
Yeah. I think
I feel a lot of work goes into these,
For
and
sure.
it's paying dividends for Fandango and Tyler Breeze.
especially consider the fact that they probably rehearse and film all these all on the day of the show when they get there. You know what I mean? With the voiceovers and everything. So it certainly is slightly higher level of production than your typical backstage segment, but it's not like it costs anymore. It's not like it takes, an extra couple days even to film. It's very low budget. Production-wise, it's not too far off from what they typically do backstage, but it's, I think, so much more. And it's very tiny things like the board, with all the Easter eggs, and just the thing with the voiceovers that gives them a lot more value and replay value, especially online. So I think these guys are definitely figuring out their own characters and getting over as a result, even without the belts.
Yeah, I feel at the end of the New Day, Breeze and Fandango could end up getting some kind of like short, very much like they did with the Southpaw Championship Wrestling, that kind of a short out of this.
I don't see why they wouldn't do something on their own. You know what I mean? Throughout the week, take advantage of. But I mean, then again, I don't know if they really like all that. Like with Zack Ryder and everything. Filming his own things. Like, I'm just saying that stuff never gets acknowledged on TV. But I agree with you. I think this is something that's, like, look at Being the Elite and how successful that is. You know what I mean? If these two have a ton of potential to do something similar on their own.
They made the official announcement. Most had already seen Cena noting this, but he will be back July 4th on SmackDown in Phoenix, which they're doing back-to-back nights in Phoenix with Raw and SmackDown the following night. 4th of July, so they're obviously trying to combat the viewership loss that can be expected on that particular night. And, yeah, I guess we'll see if they shoot the SummerSlam program that early or if this is just a return of John Cena and the program won't take place. Maybe he'll be on the July pay-per-view. I mean, I don't know how many dates he's coming back for, if he's going to be a weekly character throughout the summer or not. Jinder Mahal versus Mojo Rawley, non-title match. The Singh brothers came out to introduce Jinder in both Punjabi and English, and they had a carpet in the ring for Jinder to enter and hoist the title up while standing on top of. That's new.
Jinder's got also just a new light up, like his new Titan, not necessarily new Titantron, but like a carpet that rolls out down the ramp, and it almost looks like it's flames, lighting up in the shape of a carpet. It's just really cool, and it makes him feel like a big deal.
So now there's a blue briefcase hung above the ring. So this was changed since the women's match. They explained that Mojo will become the 7th person in the match if he gets a win here. There was a hip toss, and Jinder just rolled away. It was a lot of Jinder just getting away from Mojo. There was a running shoulder tackle by Mojo. And then the Sings distracted Mojo, allowing Jinder to nail him and get the heat with a boot. And then Mojo came back with a clothesline, an avalanche, lifted up Jinder, who raked the eyes, and sent Mojo shoulder first into the post, and then hit the Colossus for the win in 357. And Mojo Rawley will not be going to Money in the Bank.
No. I really like the setup of the match, taking a throwaway loss from Jinder's past and using it to make a match for TV that I think is perfectly suited for a TV match.
And this was the program they teased coming out of Backlash, where they did the face-off with these two on Talking Smack that night.
Also WrestleMania, if you remember.
That's right. It seems that plans obviously have shifted significantly with Jinder throughout many periods of his very brief SmackDown run.
But originally, it seemed to definitely look like it was supposed to be Mojo beating Jinder in order to advance Mojo's career. That's all been changed.
Yeah, I don't think when Mojo beat Jinder, they had the Jinder plans locked in. I don't think this was some long-term plan. It was just one that they benefited from their own random decision.
But I appreciate them going back to their own history and referring to it. And
Gave a reason for this, yes.
Erasing a loss from Jinder's immediate past. The crowd reaction was really not all that strong for Mojo, unfortunately, here. You get the sense that the crowd didn't care about Mojo's chances in the match, or they simply didn't like him enough to want to see him win.
Jinder got on the mic. He demanded silence. This is always appreciated. And says he is the champion as the crowd chants USA. And he said he dismantled Mojo's dreams just like he will to Randy Orton in his hometown in the USA, and calls Orton and his supporters sick. He is their antidote and their medicine. Will cure the WWE universe of Randy Orton, and then finishes his promo speaking in Punjabi for his people. Which has been brought up, the fact that in this country of 1.3 billion, only 29 million speak Punjabi. Mm-hmm. It's still a lot of people.
Still a lot of people.
For us Canadians.
But it's his own, it's his mother tongue, But apparently, his Punjabi is not even that perfect. I mean, he's a Canadian speaking it, right?
Maybe he should speak Canadian for us, with an accent.
Yeah.
Anyway, the promo.
It was another generic promo. I think his delivery is pretty decent, pretty good, but I just don't hear enough substance in his words, especially when he's up against somebody like Randy Orton, who last week I thought cut a really good promo, going in and talking about how losing to Jinder for him was a disgrace to his American wrestling lineage, and I felt like it reached a certain deeper level for Orton, but all I've been hearing from Jinder is just kind of these generic evil foreigner types of lines.
Then they aired a feature on Shinsuke Nakamura, the WWE's rock star, the artist known as Shinsuke Nakamura.
Yeah, so there's some Asian flute, some Asian banjo, and somebody actually painting.
Yeah, this aired on Backlash. They aired this little feature on him painting himself.
We're to assume
he's very vain as well.
We don't. Do we know that it's him painting himself? We don't know who it is painting. I would assume it's that Rob Schomburger guy. Yes. It looked cool.
So he's also a thief.
What?
He's plagiarizing.
He steals that Rob Schomburger's style?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. He's a ripoff artist.
Artists should be able to know how much hard work goes into other people's work and not to make it reflective of your own.
Right. Next, I want to see him play a guitar.
That's where we're going.
Yeah.
If this was Raw, he'd be feuding with the Drifter in no time.
Maybe he can do some pottery. What other sort of arts?
Yeah, he's not limited to music. Yeah. He could also do what else? Maybe I
don't know. Graphic arts.
Installations.
Yeah.
Shinsuke's installation. That could be a segment.
Yeah.
He could do body interpretation.
Acting he already kind of does, It's pro wrestling. Anyway, it looked cool. Is what I'm trying to say. I think it's a more effective way of pushing him than having him come out at on your opening segment and saying lines. You know what I mean? He felt like a bigger deal on this show because he made no appearances up until the main event.
Renee interviewed Randy Orton in the back. He says over the past week he received calls from his father, from Ric Flair, and from Harley Race that said to let Jinder run his mouth and his actions will speak louder than words, and he won't have to speak one word at Money in the Bank, and Jinder will hear him just fine.
What did you think?
It was just some words.
Maybe for me, it's because Jinder, I feel, is so inexperienced. But to me, it really highlights, I think, how talented or how natural of a speaker Orton is.
I feel the best sales pitch for this match is the fact that everyone loses in their hometown. Can Randy buck this? It's almost an argument. You should have just beaten Rich Swann last weekend and had the clean sweep of everyone loses in their hometown. How can Randy overcome this?
Probably didn't know Rich Swann was from wherever they were.
Yeah, that one fell under the radar. Big E and Xavier Woods took on the Colognes, and JBL brings up how the charges against the Colognes were dropped and felt that Tom Phillips and Byron Saxton owed them an apology. Big E and Xavier applied abdominal stretches and started slapping the asses of the Colognes. They went through a commercial break. Primo hit a clothesline in the corner, and then Woods headbutted him off the turnbuckle and hit a missile drop kick. E then hit a mid-ring splash to Epico. Woods took out Primo on the floor with a Tope Con Hero, and then Woods tagged himself in. They hit the midnight hour with the pin on Epico. The Usos came out after the match. Jay calls them yesterday, as in their old news. And they have the whole division on lock and says, just like the New Day, they've also got jokes. So they mock Kofi for his pigtails. They asked if Big E is his name or his bra size, and then says, we've also got one for you, Xavier. And I was like, oh boy. Let's see what he got for Xavier.
Plenty of ammunition.
And he tells him to look up, then down, down, and asks, what are those? In reference to his Iron Sheik-inspired boots. So, not exactly too bad.
Yeah, he could have went a lot further. I like the Usos, again, a lot. I think they feel really fresh. I feel like the act that they've developed is probably not 100% of the way there, probably about 85% of the way there. I think they have great delivery, some great catchphrases, the whole, Jay's whole thing, and then the Uso Penitentiary. I like it all. I think the structure and the beats of their promos kind of need to be refined just a bit to maximize the crowd reaction, and I have no doubt that they'll go back in the weeks ahead and to tinker and really find their groove. But I'd also say they're really kind of teetering between heel and babyface here. This almost kind of felt like an Enzo and Cass type of promo to me, where they're repeating, very memorable lines, almost trying to get the crowd to chant along eventually. That, to me, at least seems to be the aim. But at this point, I think anything that gets them over is better than not being over at all.
I feel the go-home segment is going to be a roast battle between these two teams next week.
Isn't that good? Isn't that what we want?
If it's good.
Sure, if it's good, yeah. The New Day, on the other hand, I'm a little bored of. I was hoping that with this move to SmackDown, they'd refresh their act a little bit. But for me, I think their matches and their promos are feeling a little bit stale. So I think the New Day really needs the Usos to catch fire for their own sake.
Dasha then spoke with Sami Zayn in the back. He's been watching lots of footage on his opponents to prepare for Money in the Bank and picking up on little tendencies. But the guy he can't figure out is Shinsuke Nakamura. So therefore, we got the first ever justification for a guy doing guest commentary, as he said he would be out for the singles match with Kevin Owens tonight, and says that Shinsuke's charisma makes him dangerous because it masks all of his weapons. Very dangerous. Like you.
Me?
Yes.
Why?
People are offset by your personality, but you are very dangerous.
I am.
You are.
Okay.
Bronze medalist, blue belt. So Baron Corbin then walks in and takes the microphone and is about to ask Zayn a question when he punches him and attacks him with a nearby ladder. and says he shouldn't be worried about Nakamura. And then just so happened to be that there were another 2 ladders set up off screen that he threw Zayn into, and says that it looks like a spot on commentary just opened up. So Sami was left for dead. We cut to Shane, who's on his phone saying, "Are you watching this? Are you watching this?" And he's got to go deal with this. Naomi walks in. She's furious and wants to face Lana at Money in the Bank. She wants to fight her and will even put her title on the line. Shane agrees, makes the title match, and Lana is going to get snatched bald. So Naomi and Lana. This was the suggestion that if you're going to have 2 women's matches, Lana was the only option, and that is going to happen. Naomi versus Lana, which all I will say is I hope this is a match that they are doing ad nauseum at the Performance Center.
Yes. I think the fact that they rushed to a title match so quickly suggests that they probably don't have any real plans to put the belt on Lana. This is, you can really just kind of look at it as an exhibition match. Maybe it's a match, that'll have a lot of shenanigans. Maybe it's a match that won't even necessarily get started. Keep in mind also that this could take place after the Money in the Bank match, so it could be somewhat of a setup for a potential cash-in that night. But I don't think this is a match that anybody has any high expectations going into. I see it as more just something serving storyline,
Yeah, I would not discount the idea of Lana winning this.
Okay. Yeah.
I think it's possible. I think anything's possible.
I think anything's possible, yeah.
I mean, it kind of puts this whole character to a halt if she just comes up short.
Okay, but to have her beat Naomi, you think would be beneficial for the entire division?
Then you have the story of a champion that all the contenders feel they could beat. It's the UFC's middleweight division.
Oh, my God. I think that'd be a terrible idea.
Wait, the whole show's built around Jinder Mahal now.
Yeah, within reason, though, because they have a reason to push Jinder. They have no reason to push Naomi or Lana with the title, especially when I feel like they have a lot more at stake here.
There's no reason to push anyone in that women's division solely. I mean, it's the women's title way. It goes like all these women are probably going to hold this title over the next year.
I think they're a lot more careful with it these days. I mean, Carmella hasn't won it yet, and I think that what they have with Naomi right now is really strong. I think Naomi sounded great here in this little segment with Shane, and I don't know what they're doing in that household with her and the Usos, but I think they're all starting to find their stride and gaining a lot more confidence lately.
Then we had the 205 Live promo from TJP. Let's be honest. The Cruiserweight division only exists because of me. I am the first Cruiserweight champion, after all, and I have watched the never-ending line of loserweights fighting over a title I made great. Tonight on 205 Live, I finally get my opportunity to win back my title from the backstabbing king of the loserweights. Neville, you can't stab someone in the back the same way in front of you. It's time to see who the real king is. That is true. You cannot stab me in the back way if I'm in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
This was not at peak TJP levels.
No. It is what it is,
But he's really trying with that loserweights tag. He's used that a few times.
Whoever's writing this for him is really trying. I think the guy is, constantly trying to improve. Unfortunately, somebody like him, he has to do it in front of cameras every single week rather than at the Performance Center, Like, for a lot of people, speaking in public, especially as a character, doesn't come naturally, and I would say TJP is one of those people. So it is what it is, and I think we kind of have to bear with it. He's kind of being put under pressure to really accelerate and find that comfort in a very fast amount of time because he's on TV every single week, but it's not going to come quickly. You know what I mean? So I hope he just continues to work at it. But again, you look at somebody like Naomi, who, in my opinion, was same case. Somebody who was very shy and couldn't seem to bring her personality out. But I think now she sounds very natural. So maybe TJP should hang out with the Usos and Naomi, sleep in their house.
I'll have more on TJ Perkins during our 205 Live review, so you can download that for a comparison point. Mm-hmm. Main event was Kevin Owens and Shinsuke Nakamura, billed as first time ever on the same day Ring of Honor posted their match from 2014 from New York. Baron Corbin is on commentary and calls Zayn an annoying little bug who he's entertained by continually beating down. They went through a commercial break quickly, and then Owens tripped him on the edge of the apron and hit a fallaway slam into the barricade on the floor. JBL also sent well wishes to Harley Race, who had a horrible fall in his home last week and broke both of his legs. Owens hit a cannonball, and Corbin asks if it's a cannonball or a marshmallow. And Nakamura then cuts him off with an enziguri, suplexed him, and then hit the Kinshasa and pinned him clean. I've got to say, Way, I was very underwhelmed with this. Very underwhelmed.
For all the advertising that they gave this match leading into SmackDown.
Whole week?
Yeah, I would say it was a disappointing match.
Like, this to me wasn't even like house show main event level.
Yeah. It was more like dark match post SmackDown.
You're right. That's the best comparison.
Yeah.
I just thought, given who this was, and Nakamura's had some, I don't want to say flat performances, but he hasn't had that huge performance yet on SmackDown.
Yeah.
And this was an opportunity for it. They didn't have a ton of time, but they did have like 15 minutes. So that should have been enough. And it was just, crowd didn't feel all that into it. And the finish just was so abrupt. Like, it was just all Nakamura selling until an enziguri and a suplex.
I'll certainly agree that he hasn't seemed to live up to his hype, at least in ring. In the 2-3 matches he's had while on the main roster, and I thought this was gonna be his kind of best chance. This was like a dream match for a lot of people.
Yeah.
But let's remember though that it's just TV. Hopefully,
Compare this to Styles and Ziggler last week.
Yeah, sure. Hopefully, though, these two will get a better chance at a pay-per-view for a more lengthier, substantial match.
And then after the match, Corbin comes from behind and lays out Nakamura with the end of days, stood over top of him, and that concluded SmackDown. There was, I thought the women had a good showing on this show. I liked how they pushed that forward. Lana was certainly featured well. I liked the fashion files, but this was a week where I thought solidly in Raw's favor.
I agree.
All right, let's head on over to Talking Smack, which followed. One thing that's really weird about this show, and I know this has been, almost 6 months now that they've had this schedule, but it just feels weird when the show starts and Renee comments on what we last saw just moments ago on SmackDown when the viewer at home has had 50 minutes in between that.
Right.
It's just a bit of a jump. And 205 Live never exists on this show, which it can't.
I just hate it. I think Talking Smack is such a great follow-up to SmackDown. It works so naturally to have 205 Live there. Just doesn't work for 205 Live and doesn't work for Talking Smack.
It's almost as though you wish that, forget it. I'm not going to go through my state of 205 Live. Renee and Shane start off, and Shane mentions that he would like to open the show once.
Would he really?
Whatever, Shane. Mojo is their first guest, and Renee asks how it feels to be on the losing side tonight, and Shane just sarcastically mocks her by saying, "Oh, it feels awesome." Mojo says he's got to refocus, says that you need to be ready for the Singh brothers when you face Jinder Mahal. That's part of the scouting. Shane just completely fine with this blatant interference that the Singh brothers use. Like, yeah, that's part of it. And Mojo says he's glad this happened because he knows how he's going to handle this and move forward. He's going to go back and study the tape and go back to the drawing board, all the cliches. And Shane was really impressed by this, to the point that he cut off Renee so that he could shake Mojo's hand. And Mojo acknowledges he blew his opportunity after Renee asks if he can take a page out of Jinder's book and what he did to turn his career around.
Yeah. They were kind of experimenting here a little on 205, on Talking Smack, where Renee at no point introduces the guests. The guests would just interrupt their conversations. And in this instance, I thought it made Mojo look really dumb to sit in here in the middle of Shane making his point, and Shane actually has to say, "Oh, Mojo, before we get to you, let me just finish my point." Just completely ignoring this guy who just lost on the show. Now he has to sit there while Shane McMahon has to finish his point about whoever, yes. AJ Styles or something. Again, I think Mojo comes across really well on things like this. Unfortunately, I don't know why they booked him to be on this show to talk about a loss. You know what I mean? It's for him to, I guess, kind of recover. But his recovery just consists of him seeming really humble. And I think that's fine. He comes across kind of likable, but I hardly want to cheer for him as a result of it.
What do you think is going to happen with Mojo when Zach comes back?
If there's nothing else for either of them, then I would assume a tag team run. I know that they, at some point, seem to be behind Mojo, giving him the win at the Andre Battle Royal and whatnot. But it just seems like there are so many other guys that have a better chance, have a better shot, in my opinion. And I look at Luke Harper. I'd even look at Ty Dillinger as, potential baby faces that could connect better than Mojo Rawley.
Maybe he ends up in some kind of feud with Rusev, who's also lost now because of plans changing. I mean, he's not even referenced on the show anymore.
Yeah, Rusev is like at home watching Harry Potter. That's what he's doing. He has no
It's very lazy that they haven't even acknowledged it. Like, you aired that video, so you already put that forward. It deserves an explanation. Mm-hmm. It deserves something, that you're not getting that title shot. You can remain home. Something. Right. It pisses me off when it's just introduced and we don't even believe we need to reference this. It never happened.
On the other hand, like, I am glad that they're not bringing him back just to be in the background. Just to not do
explain
anything.
What happened, because an ultimatum was presented and nothing was answered.
It makes him look really silly in the end.
So Lana then joined after Shane talked about his appearance on the Steve Austin podcast. What a sell job Shane did of going to check this out. It's like, oh, you were on the Austin podcast. Yep. You take a lot of heated questions. You're used to that. Oh, yeah. Wow. I could have an hour and a half of this. Lana does.
How about your appearance on Jim Ross?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
He's just a humble guy, just like you are. You know?
Yeah. Oh, no. I'm full of myself. Trust me. Yes. Jim Ross, podcast 1. Listen to me for over an hour. Chatting, discussing, pontificating the world with Jim Ross.
Okay.
You can download it now. Lana comes on. She did her Russian accent, as we mentioned, throughout this whole bit. On a scale of 1 to 10, what did you think about the accent? Because there were a few times, like, she got to the edge, like it was going to slip, but she kept it pretty much intact, I would say.
Well, she's been doing it for, 3, 4 years now?
I'll say this is a lot more impressive than just a promo, though.
Yes.
Like in an arena setting.
I thought Lana came across pretty well. I think she is somebody who really she's able to show, I think, how well she could improvise on a show like Talking Smack. Here, I felt like she stayed in character throughout the entire time, didn't seem to fumble, and always had some charismatic comeback to anything that was said to her.
Yeah, she had a lot going on in this segment. Yeah. Like, I was thinking here, like, imagine I had to speak not only in the Anderson Silva voice, but also from that perspective in an interview. It's like, holy Christ, that would be hard. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
She says that she's going to snatch Naomi bald and snatch her title. And Lana admits she's nervous because Naomi is so athletic. She thinks Naomi's one of the most athletic people, period, in the WWE, not just amongst the women. She has sought out the best coaches, she's been studying, and wants to bring the women's revolution to new heights. Shane says she does not deserve this title shot. She hasn't earned it, but Naomi wanted it. She is the CM Punk of the women's division. And Lana calls him naive, says she grew up in a small and pathetic village in Russia and was told she would be nothing. She believes in herself and will prove all her doubters wrong. The hatred amongst people for this Lana character. Oh, from humble beginnings to try and overcome things. She continues to state that she is the most ravishing superstar of all time and is going to become the face of SmackDown Live. She's happy for both Renee and Shane because of all the greatness that she is going to bring to this division. And Lana leaves, and Shane struggles to keep a straight face after she leaves. I think he was very impressed with this accent. But what did you think about Lana here?
No, I thought she came across well. Like I said, she keeps repeating the line, "I'm the most ravishing wrestler to ever wrestle."
All the women have to have a tag.
Right, I understand. But I kept waiting for Shane or Renee to speak up and say, hey, what about our 2017 Hall of Famer, Ravishing Rick Rude? You know, it's like that line, I think so specifically.
He literally changed his name to Ravishing Rick Rude.
Yeah, I think that line so specifically, makes you think of Rick Rude because Lana specifically states, "I'm the most ravishing person to ever be in the WWE." So I wait for that line at some point. But I thought Lana came across well.
Shane says that Lana didn't let her finish while he was stating that she didn't deserve the title shot, and brings up Renee cutting him off last week and asks, is this some sort of women thing? Go, Jesus, Shane, you're really stepping in it with that one. And then Renee says, wait a minute, you shushed me last week. And the internet had a field day with it. AJ was on last. They talked about Shane wearing a man romper, criticized Corbin for jumping people from behind, stating it's not really that hard to do that. And then they basically just went over the ladder match dangers, and he's not going to reveal when he'll cash it in if he wins the briefcase. And then AJ asks if there's actually a drink inside of their coffee mugs. There is, and the show ended.
AJ's appearance, I thought, was kind of meh. You know, they just kind of
went nothing to say.
They just went over the Money in the Bank match, and that was really it. You didn't gain that much from it.
Guys, to be honest, I just finished a weekend loop, and I really want to go home. And you're keeping me for this.
Oh my God! You know what you need to watch is him against Seth Rollins on Up Up Down Down in the Madden tournament finals.
Okay.
So this is like several month-long tournament. And AJ Styles ended up, I guess, winning his bracket, and Seth Rollins ended up winning his bracket. So now this is the finals. And so Seth Rollins, I guess, had to come to SmackDown one week and to actually play AJ Styles backstage.
This already sounds like a better build than they had for the Survivor Series last year.
They cut promos for this and everything.
Wow.
They actually built this up. And so AJ, they're playing on a PlayStation 4. But AJ is an Xbox guy.
Oh.
So he's using a PS4 controller. And Seth Rollins, by the way, is a 2-time defending champion. He's won 2 years in a row, so he's going for number 3. But AJ now is, this kind of upcoming threat. Huge video game guy, as I'm sure you know. He had his Xbox stolen or something.
Oh, that's
recently.
right.
Anyway, so they're playing. I didn't watch the whole thing, but I skipped to the middle. Eventually, the final score ended up being 40-something to 3.
Oh boy.
For Rollins. And if you watch this video, AJ is just so upset. He gets so angry, progressively more and more angry. And the whole time he's just complaining, I'm an Xbox guy. It's a square button. It's not supposed to be an X. The X in the square. It's hilarious. He gets legitimately pissed off. And he doesn't seem like a fun guy to play video games with.
Wow.
I'll say.
It's like playing ping pong with Chris Weidman.
Yeah.
Yeah. These guys take on another recommendation when it comes to something similar. On tonight's Ultimate Fighter, it's the Coach's Challenge between Cody Garbrandt and TJ Dillashaw. And they have to play tetherball on these balance beams in water. It gets awesome. That's all I'm going to say.
I have not seen any of that.
One of them just loses it, and it's great.
All right.
So that's airing tonight on
Cool.
Ultimate Fighter. That was SmackDown and Talking Smack, so that is all for us. I would say a kind of...
Yeah. Meh.
Yeah. Run-of-the-mill SmackDown.
Raw was actually much better this week.
Significantly better this week, I felt. So that is going to wrap it up for the video portion of Review of SmackDown, but do head on over to liveaudiowrestling.com for our review of 205 Live, as well as your feedback and questions that we'll be taking, also up on iTunes. And, of course, we drop our videos every week at youtube.com/liveaudiowrestling. So we will check it out over on the website.